Today we pick up the fourth and final question. Next week, tomorrow, what's going to come out is not actually a video devotion. We do something different on Fridays. You will get a newsletter from me called the Friday Update, and it sort of goes in some different directions, something I've been doing for the last 5 years. And then on Monday, we're going to pivot and we're going to go into the book of Hebrews, and we're going to start marching through that book verse by verse. And the book of Hebrews is, some refer to the book of Hebrews as the fifth gospel. I mean, it's just a particularly rich, it's a profound book. And it is a celebration of Jesus, and it sort of is explaining all things about Jesus. So I look forward to seeing you back, or at least you seeing me back next week as we begin that. Today I want to go after the final question, and that is, why the church? So the first question is, who is Jesus? Second question, why did he have to die? Third question, what do we do about the Bible? What am I supposed to make of that? This question is, why the church? And I think it's an important answer. There's a lot of people sometimes referred to as Creasters, which means Christmas and Easter. Those are the times you show up. Or CEOs, Christmas and Easter onlys. Who say, yeah, I'm engaged, I'm involved. They often think I'm in a rut because I'm either only ever preaching about the birth of Jesus or about the resurrection, because those are the only 2 weeks that they show up. And I know that since COVID, there's been a lot of people who have not come back to church because online church is so convenient, or because, my faith is very personal and I'm doing fine on my own. I want to challenge all that, and I sort of challenge all that by just asking this question: why the church? Why should you be actively involved in the church? And the first thing I'd say is, if you're a Christ follower, you actually are the church. The church is not a building. The church is a group of people. It's a cause. It's a community. And so you are the church, and so you're not being involved in sort of an intentional, focused way with other Christ followers in this pattern that has been established in the early church, book of Acts, and then carries off the last 2,000 years. I just don't think you can do it. But let me come at this a little bit differently. Why do I think you should be involved in the church? The first reason is because this is God's idea. In the Synoptic Gospels, there's this moment where Jesus asked the disciples, who do people say that I am? And they say, some say you're John the Baptist, some say you're Elijah, and some say, whatever. And then he says, well, that's interesting. Who do you say that I am? And we have this very significant moment where Peter says, you are the Christ, you are the Messiah, you are the Son of God, you're the one we've been waiting for, you're the one the whole Old Testament has been pointing to. You are the promised one. And Jesus responds and says, Peter, wow, good job. As a matter of fact, your answer is so spot on. I know it didn't come from you. Blessed are you, Peter, because you didn't come up with this on your own. God, the Father, gave this to you. And then he goes on to say, and on what you have just said, Peter, I'm going to build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And the word that he uses here for church, ekklesia, was a Greek term that had fallen out of favor, sort of a political term that was used in the ancient by the ancient Greeks and the philosophers, but it was no longer in circulation. Jesus reaches back, he pulls it forward, and he says, I'm going to build this movement, and it's going to prevail. And it's going to be the most significant force for good, and it's going to prevail against the gates of hell. And in fact, while the church has got all kinds of problems, and I just want to be right up front, the church is full of very broken, sinful people like me and like you. While the church is very broken, it has marched forward from that day. And it is now the largest, the oldest, the most geographically dispersed, the most ethnically diverse, the most powerful force, in one sense, in the world and in history. It was God's idea. The second thing I'll say is the church is his plan for carrying out his work, right? The people of God, empowered by the Holy Spirit, is critical to God's plan. And it sure doesn't look like he's got a plan be. And so this is God's plan. The third thing I'll say is the church will prevail. That was Jesus' promise in Mark 8, right? The gates of hell are not going to be able to withstand the onslaught of the battering ram of the church. God is going to win, and in God winning, the church is going to prevail. And a fourth thing that I would say is God says that you need it. He says, do not forsake the assembling together as some are in the practice of doing, right? I don't care. Look, I don't want to get up on Sunday mornings. And, I get that it's a whole lot easier not to. Okay, it's a whole lot easier to do a lot of things or to not do a lot of things. This is something that God says we need. And the last thing I'll just point out is that the church, there's lots of good organizations out there doing good things, but the church is unique in that it is also the place where some of the blessings of God, and I'm thinking now of the sacraments of baptism and Holy Communion, are most fully manifest. So, you need the church, broken and as perfect as it is. And by the way, if you find a perfect church, don't join it, because it would no longer be perfect once you joined or once I joined. So, those are the answers to the 4 questions. Tomorrow, the Friday update. Next Monday, we begin with the book of Hebrews. Have a good day.